So we're here today with Andrew Draper, the head of STEM at Winona College. How are you today, Andrew?
Very well, thank you.
So what were your qualifications before you went into this role? So
Well, I started, I'm from the UK, so I did 3 A-level. I did maths, physics and chemistry. You only do 3, you don't like HSC. And then I went and did an honours degree in engineering, specialising in civil engineering and coastal and offshore flood alleviation, that sort of thing. Then I worked as an engineer, and then I actually retrained as a teacher and did a Masters in Education in the UK before coming to Australia.
The skills that you have as either an engineer or a teacher, would you say those were developed more on the job, or were they more classroom-based learning skills?
Well, as you have to have the background knowledge, a theory, if you like, before you can put it into practice. How you discover that depends on what you're doing. I mean, there's the University of YouTube nowadays, where if you want to find something, you look it up. And of course, there's also no problem in getting information. So perhaps the thing, certainly I train my students to do, and I think scientists do well, is understand the difference between information and understanding. So they're not the same thing.
If you were to pinpoint like one of the main skills or main 3 skills that you picked up while working, as maybe one skill for an engineer, one skill as a science teacher, what would you?
People management. People management is used to be certainly overlooked, and you had this idea that scientists were these people that worked on their own in a lab in a white coat. They didn't speak to people. They were socially awkward. You can't do that anymore. Scientists are finding more and more they need funding. They need, and for their ideas to have weight, they also need to be well communicated. A good example is all this stuff you hear about climate change, for example. So you hear these climate deniers that try and make this into some kind of conversation where there isn't really a conversation. And poor communication skills for by scientists can lead to that issue. If it's no matter how good their research is or how their findings are, how well supported they are, if they can't make that understood, they're effectively worthless.
Absolutely. So, when you talk about many current events, would you say that you've maintained and expanded your knowledge recently by speaking to other scientists or looking into those works? Is that just a way to keep it?
Absolutely, happens in all sorts of ways. I mean, educationally, I've just actually come out of a class where we were using Arduino's microcontrollers, which they're not a new thing, but we're using them on eBay for $4. And when I think about when I first started engineering, we were using DX86s, 486s, computers, which were at the time, when I first started doing cutting edge, so slow. We were running simulations for overnight, which you do today in a couple of seconds.
If you had to narrow down 2 important attributes for a scientist to have, what would you say those 2 would be?
One has got to be a lack of prejudice in their work. In other words, so many scientists have come unstuck by anticipating the results they want and then reading them that way. So you need, if you're doing research, you need to be able to take the value, take what information you get, and actually analyse it without prejudice. That's unusual. Most people have an inbuilt prejudice. That's really important. The other attribute, as I already mentioned, is being able to communicate well. I think it's hugely undersold even now. The greats, your David Attenboroughs are really where the gold star is in terms of science communication. But you haven't got to be that. But you do have to be able to make your ideas clear. So that also allows you, of course, to do better research because you can communicate better with the other people working with you. You very rarely work alone in any field of science to get better results from both of you.
Absolutely. So would you say that being a teacher has helped you gain those 2 attributes as a scientist?
Communication, yes, because that is 9 or 2/10 of a job of being a teacher.
Absolutely.
Being non-biased is extremely important in teaching. Perhaps my being non-biased in the way I mentioned in terms of scientists is not as relevant as a teacher. No, it doesn't really matter as much. Certainly, the idea of seeing things clearly without any prejudice is very important, but not in science as such. No.
Okay. Now, final question for today. Do you see, from your point of view, any advances or breakthroughs in science in the next 10 years?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I mean, lots of things interest me in the physics world. The idea of light computing, I think, is something that's going to really be a big breakthrough if they can get it to work. That's one area, I think, where we're reaching, Moore's law is that we get to the point where we can't increase computer speed anymore with conventional computers. That's going to change, or it has to, because otherwise we start to put limits on what we can do with our computers. We can't get used to that continual improvement that we've seen with, from iPhones to iPhone 6, and home computers and televisions and sat-navs. We can't see that process and move along at the same speed without a new processing system. That is the most exciting one to me. For me as an educator now, interestingly, I don't see... What I'm waiting for is the education system to catch up with the scientific community, because the syllabuses that we look at are out of date, and the science has gone past the education.
What's with their teaching? Well, thank you very much. I'm Stephen Quinn, and thank you very much to Andrew Draper.
You're most welcome.